the second meeting tonight too, it's good, two meetings in one night. Good.
Do you have to wait, or is it right afterwards?
Right after, so it's good. Oh, there we go. Gotta figure out this email thing tomorrow, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she worked today, just because I got the for GI tomorrow. The Technology Committee meeting of August the 26th, 2024. Please come to order. Clerk, read the roll.
Adel.
Here.
Bush.
Here.
Curry. DeBella.
Here.
Drake.
Here.
Pardo.
Here.
Gentile.
Here.
Salemi. Taylor.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Item 2, public comments relative to agenda items. Guess there's none. Item 3, approval of meetings of the August 12th, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Are there any additions or deletions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. I should have called abstention. You weren't on the phone? On the,
I tried to get on the phone, it
Okay.
wouldn't work. So. I called the IT last week and they fixed it.
we gotta get it squared away. Okay. Item 4, discussion regarding committee questions to submit to REA Resource Recovery Systems. I think that they did a decent job when they came in and explained to us where they were, what they've done and what they're talking about doing. The 4, I guess it's the New London, Hartford area, was it New Haven, and Danbury is the circle. That's something they've been working with Deep on for several years, and at least that's what they said. I think and the staff had a series of questions that weren't prepared. So I think we've got to have our staff prepare those questions and then submit them to REA and then get the REA responses when they come back and move forward so that we can get this thing flushed out. There's a lot in the technology. There's a lot out there that they explained was happening with the technology. But also look at they have, I believe they have technology patents that exist. So it should be interesting to see what they came back with, because it's been, a couple of years, we've been more than that. What, Scott, 3-4 years?
2019,
19
prior to the pandemic.
pandemic, yeah, just at the beginning of the pandemic. So their progress has been really damn good in terms of, staying to a plan and developing a plan. So are there any questions, additions that we should, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Commissioner-
I got a question. Again, Commissioner Drake, I was thinking about this, how this thing worked. And I think what they have is good. The technology is good. But in Danbury, they don't make electricity, right? I assume they don't, right?
Again, I
So
don't.
to me, it makes a lot of sense to me what they're doing with it, because they don't make electricity. So to make biofuel instead. Is there any reason, if we wanted to pursue this, we bring this stuff in and directly send it to our clarifiers and our furnace and forget the biofuel and sell the electricity and make, I assume this is really good high energy content. Maybe it helps our furnaces too, because we put something that really burn and increase our sell electricity and make the money that way and screw the biofuel. Does that make any sense at all? And no equipment, we make more money, we bring the stuff in. I don't know.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Uh,
Just Scott Jellison. So just remember the conversations we've had since 2019, right? Danbury had a need. What's the need? The need is their grease, oils, and fats, oils, and grease, FOG, is affecting their chemistry in their plant. Their plant is completely different than our plant.
Right.
Two different plants. We burn all of our sludge. They don't. They can't. They have digesters, so they can't burn that. They have to bring it to someone like us. So their chemistry need was not to make money, but was to get rid of their fog. So they chose to go in this direction to get rid of the fog. So they don't, as Al Barbaretta said, there was somebody with a tablespoon mixing wood chips and fog together and then put landfilling it. So they had a business need to do something, an operational need to do something, and they chose to do this. We don't have that same need, right? We're not even close to where they are. We actually use our fog in a positive way. We actually burn it. We make energy from it. So this is proposing to remove the fog from our process and then make something else that's going to make us money.
Yeah, what I'm saying, not to interrupt, but I'm saying I agree with you 100%, but instead of remove it, let's bring more in and burn more and make electricity and forget all the other
Yeah,
stuff.
well, I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question, but just to clarify, I just want to clarify. So the need is different. The two plants are completely different,
I understand that, yeah.
night and day, right? And so they are doing something. I'm concerned about what they're telling us. You know, this started in 2019. They told us that they were going to make biodiesel for vehicles, for trucks, right? In 2019, they said, that's what we're going to do. There's an article that I brought up at the meeting. This is the mayor of Danbury pumping biodiesel into Danbury trucks. This is October of 2023, that they're going to save $300,000 a year, $1 million a year in operational expenses by using this biodiesel in Danbury vehicles. So this article is not true because they sat here and said, well, they don't meet the ASTM 6751 or whatever the numbers were, so therefore they can't use it. So this is not true, okay? So we don't have a need. There's a lot of other questions associated with this biodiesel, the whole market issue, the issue of renewable biodiesel and how that plays in and all that good stuff. The other thing is important to note is whatever proposal REA has been trying to sell the MDC here, they're not doing in Danbury. They were hired by the town through the construction facility manager, which is Veolia, to design and build and maintain for 1 year this plant. They're not selling this biodiesel on the market. I would ask the question we should be talking, I'd like to talk to somebody, whoever that somebody
Sell it
is.
to the oil guy.
Well, they're not the ones selling the oil. They said they're selling the oil to the biodiesel to Danbury Home Heating Oil, but they don't have the contract to sell it. So you talk about the RINs, you talk about all of the federal monies. I guess my point is, what is REA's role? Are they selling us what they're doing in Danbury? I've never seen the contract between themselves and Danbury. I'd like to see it. I'd like to talk to people at Danbury. I'd like to talk to people that they're selling the oil to at Danbury Home Heating Fuel. My only point is the things that we started talking about in 2019 still isn't a reality. They're not making diesel fuel for trucks today.
Can I just finish my question? I was want to ask, but you didn't answer my question. My question is,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
forget about biodiesel.
Yeah.
Is there a potential revenue stream to bring in the 5 million gallons, fix our clarifiers or do whatever to take it and burn it and make more electricity, and we get tipping fees and we make electricity? Forget the biodiesel. Is there a business there?
That's a good question.
Okay.
Because I think where they've come from is brown, they're talking about brown grease, which no one wants, and we take it because we burn it. But the amount of sulfur that we burned is discharged into the environment. And what they do is when they create the biodiesel, they reduce dramatically the sulfur there. So the
Sulfur's
question you're asking makes some sense here, because can they use it in backup generators and things of that nature? Sure they can.
They
But
can't.
again, Scott raised the question with him. There's a whole question when you have a backup generator, you have a warranty on them. And there's certain warranty parts that they won't.
Yeah, they're not allowed, right
So,
now,
but-
they're
but-
not authorized to
Okay,
to
but let me,
use it in a diesel
could I
engine.
finish my thought?
Yeah.
Okay. However, they can make, according to them, bio one, was it 100, B100? And there are other uses other than that. Heating oil is one of them, that there's a requirement now, 10%? That has to be supplemented into the process. It's talking about going to 20%. And it's a sulfur discharge that they do. And no one, other than us, that what burns it, is using it. So what they're talking about is a situation where they don't so much do it in they pick it up from the smaller wastewater treatment facilities, process it. Now they could dewater it, and they bring it to one station, use their technology, and create this similar to garbage, a resource recovery garbage situation. And it's supposedly, it's what they've been working with Deep with for this circular group. They pick the things up and come back to a station. But again, there are a lot of questions on how they do it and how effective it is that I think you're right. We'd like to know. And they have alternative uses for it. And it's brown grease. People don't sell brown grease. They pay to have it taken away. So there's different revenue streams. Again, this is just reading the materials that they have and seeing as they evolved over the years. But again, I don't know whether they can use it in trucks or diesel trucks or whatever they say they can use it.
Well,
Maybe
then-
true.
Yeah,
I don't know,
it-
Scott.
Yeah, well, and I asked that question last meeting.
Let's get a question.
Well, I asked them the question at the last meeting, are you using it in diesel vehicles? They said no,
Okay.
because they did not pass the requirements of the ASTM test 6751. So they're not using it. They're promoting that they're using it in Danbury, but they're not. So remember, the biggest concern we have is we're an environmental justice community, unlike Danbury is not. So the more trucks we bring in with fog, the more diesel that you're burning, and you can't burn it, biodiesel, in a diesel engine at this point, or at least theirs. So that means you're going to be bringing in more traffic to the plant, which is going to affect our Title V and our permit, our air permit at the plant, which would kick in a environmental justice review. Diesel and car vehicle gas engines are the number one emissions problem, and the state and the feds just changed the emissions for those vehicles in the past couple of years in the Clean Air Act. So I guess it's really the simplest point is Danbury had a need, whatever that need was, to solve a problem with fog. We don't have that. We don't have that same problem. So applying this logic to our plant would be, what can you make in revenue, right? And I think
We make money collecting fog,
right.
bring the truck somewhere else. I don't know, could we,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a number you guys could sell electricity, fogged electricity, be done with it. Can we do that? Is there a revenue stream of $5 million we can make?
That's a question that we've got.
That's something we have to internally. That's
Right.
not something you ask them.
So we did, as part of this program, the first couple of seasons before the pandemic, we did hire this group, and we did have an outreach with the Yukon staff, students, to really try and develop a program to educate their restaurateurs on how important it is to not dump your yellow grease into the waste stream, because once you dump it into the waste stream, it becomes brown, right? So so you have a couple of competing factors. That's a big challenge just in educating the restaurateurs. And then the other challenge you have is there is a market for people physically, proactively going to restaurateurs and buying their yellow grease directly. So, and paying for it. I know Al mentioned 25 cents. I heard in the dollars. I heard they're paying in the, Tom, did you get a number? But I heard there was, there's a company out of Springfield that's paying, $1 and change for pure yellow grease. So there's a market.
What are they doing with it?
They're selling it to the companies that are making renewable, right? So because it's pure yellow. And so you're competing with this market, this component of biodiesel is about, as I mentioned, it's about 13% of the market, 70% is renewable. So there's a lot of competing factors here on the business side. But I guess the question for us is, what does the business need to do this? Like, what are we going to do besides create more truck traffic, diesel trucks in the poorest community in Hartford, which in the city, which is Hartford, environmental justice community, to do what? To take the fat, salts, and grease out of our system and then process it some way differently. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I don't know.
Well, if there's a business model, let's see what the business model is. It's not yellow grease. It's brown grease that they're dealing with. They have a patent that allows them to convert it into biodiesel. And I don't know of anybody else that has it. And we're not talking about doing a process at our facility. It could be done at another facility. It could be done in Rocky Hill. I mean, again, I don't know. But let's take a look at what they have to say, raise all the questions you have, good questions, and let's hear what their answers are. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Curry. I've been pretty disappointed in not the technology committee going about its business, but disappointed in the fact that we've been unable, after so many years, to even come close to finding someone that will provide us with an alternative revenue source and or have a positive impact on our systems as it relates to pollution. And we heard at the last, and we studied another company a lot, and we went through this similar process that we're proposing, and I think it's fine. But there's a series of 8 or 10 questions that are out there that's been out there for months that we still have not heard back from that company on. So, but that's okay, because, we'll take another step in a different direction. But from my point of view, and same as yours, Commissioner, is, and I don't want to sound selfish, but what's in it for MDC? What's in it for our member towns? And I think those are, if we think about creating questions, those are the type of questions, not what they can or can't do, but what can they do for us within our member towns, whether it be one that's an environmental justice town or one that is not. And maybe that's something to take into consideration as well. But, and we heard from staff at the last meeting that plopping it down in Hartford and draining some of the brown grease and whatever has such a little of impact on a positive turn on the pollution that we're putting out now, which is well under the standards, right? Okay. So those are the type of questions I would like to have asked. I would almost be in favor of having a company come in if it could be done and better clean the environment, and maybe we don't make anything, but it's still a benefit to our member towns, as long as it doesn't cost us anything. But I think we should go both ways. And I mentioned to you, Bill, that we're going to ask Scott to put out all the questions that he and his staff may have for, but we should also ask REA for them to send Scott their questions, because I think at the last meeting, They had posed questions. They had unknowns of, some were trucks, some were volume. So whatever their questions were, we need to know what those questions are so we can exchange questions and not spend a month getting one set of questions and then coming back with another set in another month and another set in another month. Let's do this simultaneously.
System. You want a two-way response.
Yeah.
You want them asking us.
And most likely, we're still going to have a second round of responses based on the first round, but I don't want to have 4 responses, one and then one and then one and then one. We can do it at the same time.
Would you be willing to make a motion on that?
Anybody else have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. If you, I'm sorry, Commissioner Taylor.
Yeah, I guess my concern here is that basically we've got to find alternative sources of revenue. And from the way things are playing out now, we're not going to make it up on water. We may be able, on an incremental basis, to increase our revenues, but not that much. I think that in the NDC's history, basically it was the processing of solid waste that essentially we generated a substantial income that basically had a significant and positive impact on basically the ad valorem that we were charging our member towns. I just don't know where things are with that regard. It is a problem that exists. It is a problem that this state and this area is grappling with. And essentially, we basically were the key players in this whole process. So I guess my concern or my thinking is, in addition to the REA matter in terms of generating biodiesel, is are we ignoring basically an opportunity where we have experience, we have involvement, and we know pretty much how it plays out. Once again, because if we are looking for additional revenue, I think that we are ignoring an opportunity that does not involve or entail any significant issues in terms of looking at the problem and doing an analysis. It may be an issue with regards to the technology that one brings to the table in terms of dealing with that. But it is an issue that is out there, that is ripe for resolution. And I think that offers us a golden opportunity to substantially enhance our revenue stream. So with the chairman, I guess I would suggest that we look and think very carefully and give serious thought to those opportunities.
Further questions?
Not the,
Commissioner
I
Gray?
agree with Commissioner Taylor, but I think where the last where we left it was, there's the gentleman from Krog, I'm not sure if it was on a TV screen or something, when they talked about 40% going, they were gonna work that out, talk to the state, and make some determination what they wanted to do. Maybe we gotta get them back. I agree with you, but it has to come from the state and Krog and say, we're interested, and I think we are, but they were talking about it, but nothing that seems to happen. But okay, let me go back to this thing though, the oil. Again, forget the bio oil. In my mind, I'm just thinking, and you know better than we do. Is there any reason we can collect the oil somewhere else and bring it in here, whatever? Is there any? It seems to me that's a big stream. Why can't we just take it directly, burn it, make electricity? Maybe we got you got to do some stuff to clarify. Is there any? You don't be shaking your head, but you don't I like that. I don't know. Why do we need to do biodiesel? Because you're going to make biodiesel, and then someone's going to make electricity and make the electric cars go. So again, skip the bio oil, just make
Very
electricity.
easily, once the battery is a better battery. That's your
No,
problem.
but I'm saying we don't need biodiesel. Just
No.
make electricity and skip everything. Can we handle that with our stuff and just get a
I don't know
revenue
the
stream? So
answer.
A lot of stuff there. I'm
So
just-
Tom,
Is that possible, number we can look at that and say?
yeah, so Tom addressed this, but I'll let him address it now. He addressed it at a number of meetings. But just remember, the fog that we receive at the
Yeah.
plant is it's a courtesy to our 8-member towns, right?
Right.
We're not in it to make money because there's not a lot of money in it.
So
You got the
just
tipping
answered it,
fees,
There's no money
But
in
it's
it
more
then?
of a benefit, it's more of a benefit to our 8-member towns. And it's not so much, you know, you're gonna get rich on it. We might hit $10 million this year on our sludge program, our biosolid sludge. So people trucking in sludge in trucks, whether it's a liquid or it's a cake, we're gonna almost hit 10 million. Okay, that's the biggest component. This is where the PFAS comes in. This is where the land application comes in. But Tom, you want to talk about the fog piece?
Sure. So in calendar 23, like Scott is saying, our regional solids receiving facility had about $9 million of revenue. Of that, about $1 million was septage, but we had to take in about 20 million gallons of septage to get that revenue. So the grease component was about $300,000. So very, very small percent of that is grease. And that was about 300,000 gallons of grease. So if you take away about $1.5 million, just roughly of the 9 million, about 7.5 is sludge. So the overwhelming majority of our revenue comes through on sludge. And yes, we make electricity. We make about 30 to 35% of the Hartford plant's needs. So we probably save the district about $1.5 million or a little bit more dollars in electricity every year by running that power plant. Whether we had the grease or we didn't have it, honestly, wouldn't really affect our electrical output that much.
We had a lot more though, a lot of it more.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
we're not designed to take in 100 million gallons of grease. You know, it's a component and we're able to function with it because it's not an overwhelming component. The one concern that I had heard from the presentation prior with REO is they said they're about a 50-to-1 ratio. So they need 50 gallons of grease to make 1 gallon of biodiesel. So when you talked about their plans for a 5 million gallon a year production facility, that's 250 million gallons of grease. We take in about 300,000 from our member towns. I don't know where the rest of that grease would even exist in all of New England. But just to come back to the revenue component, the grease is a very small element, and we take it from our member towns because they need somewhere to go that's reasonably priced and close because, you know, they don't want to truck it all over. So could we take in more? If our member towns had more to deliver, we could, but we're not actively marketing ourselves in New England as a grease facility receiver.
What if we did though? I mean, that's the whole point of this. What if we did?
Well, I don't know that our infrastructure is geared to take up that many gallons of grease on the millions and millions of gallons a year amount. Because now it gets commingled with the other waste and it does not present us operational problems. There's no problem right now at the plant handling that volume of grease.
But again, can I ask just one more question? I hate to interrupt, but REA, we're talking 5 million gallons. They were making $1.25. So that's like 6 million a year in revenue. So you got all the equipment, all the stuff we gotta do and everything else to make that 6 million. And you're saying your little tidbits you're doing 9, 10 million. So
Correct. Plus-
if it was me sitting in a room saying, how are we gonna do more revenue? I come to you and say, let's get that 2.5 million gallons of stuff around and go sell it and bring that up to $20 million without buying all this equipment. But I know you gotta buy something. I'm just kind of thinking out loud with the numbers.
I think there's a lot of good questions here that can be asked and should be.
No, but this has to be internal. It's not something you're gonna ask somebody. It's supposed to be internal. Anyways, I'll stop now.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, we have a different technology. We have the ability to do what other smaller, what's there, 110 wastewater treatment facilities?
79.
79, that have other problems that they can't get rid of it, and they want to get rid of it. And that's my understanding of how this thing works. But let's hear what they have, what their response is. I don't think they're talking about solving a problem for us. They're talking about a regional, a massive region around us where people don't have the ability. And can they bring it here dewatered or to a plant? Dewatered? It would be cheaper to do it, dewater it at their plant and get rid of that stuff and ship it to a central location, wouldn't it? If it was dewatered, you wouldn't have the same number of trucks, because you're right, what's it, 100 to 1 in terms of gallons of,
50,
I think it was 50.
50 to
yeah.
1.
yeah, 51, you know. But if it was deep watered on that site that was sending it, you'd have a solids, you'd have solids coming to you they could use in their technology. But again, I don't know the answer to that question, Tom, so
Sure.
I'm just listening to it, I'm questioning.
I would just, for clarification on that point, I've actually run a grease consolidation facility at another utility, and it is an extremely challenging process to run. That's why folks don't do it. It's very expensive, it's very odorous, and it's very difficult material to handle. That's why they put it in the back of a tanker, because the investment for any small plant to be able to dewater grease at their facility would be cost prohibitive, certainly for any small facility to do that.
So, further questions? Commissioner?
Just one, and Tom mentioned the breakdown of what it takes to get a gallon of biodiesel. I mean, we'd be better off with our interest investing in timber and buy maple trees and tap them. And maple syrup, you can make more money than you can a gallon of biodiesel. But that be as it said, in the questions that we pose, I just want to say I hope we remind them of that big umbrella we have called the environmental justice community, because that's going to have a major impact on what we can do at our plant in Hartford. And that's why I said earlier, maybe if this becomes viable with the questions that are flying back and forth, we can look at somewhere outside of environmental justice communities.
Can we have a motion to request the,
So moved.
well,
Second.
someone
Someone
verbalize
articulate
it?
it.
I'd like to
That
get
we
it
have
verbalized.
back and forth, the questions between REA and staff, we, asked that to be
Well,
submitted.
In questions back
Right.
to staff.
Yeah, back and forth.
Don, you,
Simultaneous.
Right.
Let's ask them to ask questions at the same time we're asking
Don,
questions.
can you put something, you're like a conductor here.
Yeah, all right, motion to request staff to, submit questions to REA and,
Request.
respond, and request responses from REA and any questions that REA has for the district concurrently.
Scott, do you have anything?
That
to-
sounds good.
Yeah, no, I just want to remind the commissioners that we did ask questions already and they did respond. So we will be, basically in similar fashion, asking questions that were already asked that we didn't get, I think Commissioner Curry's question is, the business deal, what's in it for MDC? How are we going to make money, right? Forget about the environmental justice, forget about all the other things. Where is there money for the MDC, right? The meetings that we have the REA in the past were, they want to be our partner. They want us to give them $300,000 to design, to start the design. And they want us to want to be our partner. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means, I don't know. But what I do know is that what they're proposing to us, whatever that is, and I still don't know what it is, they're not doing in Danbury. They don't have a deal with Danbury where they're selling their biodiesel on the market and getting the RIN and whatever other subsidy that's coming. They're simply operating the plant for a year. They designed it, they built it, and they're operating it. So I'm looking, that when we started this in 2019, they were doing a pilot in New Haven. Then they were going to do a larger project in Danbury, which would be the catalyst for proposing doing something bigger at the NDC. They haven't done what they're suggesting they want to do here. The business model, they're not doing. So I'd like to know what their business model is. What are they proposed? What are they doing in Danbury that they can bring lessons learned? The whole idea of the program in Danbury was to see if they could do it and then present it to us. I don't think the business side of the deal they've done in Danbury.
I agree.
So we need to know from the town of Danbury. My question is going to be, would like to talk to somebody in the town of Danbury. Would like to understand how they're selling the biodiesel to Middletown Oil. Who's getting how much? What are you paying? What's the RIN? Who's getting the RIN? Where's all the money flowing? Right. So those are going to be our kinds of questions.
That's good. Let's find out what the business model is. You're right. And let's articulate that to them and be specific. We had several questions that were asked and from both sides, us and that we never saw materialize or come back at us. And I guess we're asking for them to be documented based on the questions we're going to ask and what they can respond back. Commissioner Craig.
Yeah. Again, I'm not REA, I'm not necessarily what we want to do with that, but Tom, do you have the ability with engineering staff to put together some numbers that we brought in 2.5 million gallons a year about how much electricity more you could produce versus the tipping, and I don't want to talk about the trucking and everything. I mean, some basically, just basic bullets to say, yeah, we're going to make $20,000 of electricity more, and then we can say, this is a good, again, I don't want to, couple hours, someone with little brains look at this, say, can we do that? Right, right. Then come back and say, yeah, we could make a lot of electricity, 2.5 million gallons. And then we can see if there's a model. Again, this has nothing to do with biodiesel. This just, do we bring the stuff in, I don't know, by train, I don't know what it is, but can we make more electricity? If we can't, then I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I think that we could. Unfortunately for me, the director of engineering is sitting right next to me.
I was trying to be nice. But you know what I'm saying? A couple hours, look at some, it's just BTUs, right?
Yep.
You know, how many efficiency.
Sure.
And I would think the BTU content is probably pretty high, so I don't know. But again, no crazy number, just get a sense that, are we gonna can we make $10 million on 2.5 million? Then we see, okay, can we do it? And it's nothing to do with biodiesel.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Further questions? John, you want to read?
Yeah, a motion for staff to send questions to REA and request REA submit questions it may have for the district.
Is there a second? I think Don, you
Second.
made the original motion.
I think Andy and Al did.
Second.
Further discussion?
Fine.
Further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Opportunity for general public comments.
Me again.
Commissioner,
Is it worth talking to the head of CROG and maybe in a little meeting, have someone like that come in with a state and talk about what Commissioner Taylor said? Is this something that we, in municipal way, should be pursuing? That's a huge revenue stream if anybody besides us has interest in us doing it, but I haven't heard anybody. I would think someone would, but
well, there's a,
where do we go from that? Just,
If I may, Mr.
go
Chairman.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're talking about apples and apples here. The CROG issue we've been talking about recently has been the issue regarding Stormwater Authority.
no, but remember we were talking about trash and all that with
Well,
CTEC?
MSW is a different animal, right?
Yeah,
We're
right,
talking about
different
fat salts and grease here.
Yeah.
But the MSW piece is yes, it's a different,
Right,
whole different animal.
yeah.
Could I-
But we wanted to have that conversation, it kind of like went away.
Let me address that issue, because right now, Mura is still a functioning entity. They're not dealing with garbage, but they're still functioning. The legislature is charged, a committee to come up with recommendations in Mura to dissolve Mura and sell off the assets, and then they're gonna have another committee to begin to look at other alternatives. So they are working on
Okay,
it.
so based on what Commissioner Taylor said, we still gotta just wait and see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line issue, it's a problem that exists, but there's a whole bunch of problems that exist that
Okay,
they're trying to address at the same time. But the Mura, they're gonna dissolve Mura. I believe it's effective May of 2025, so that's a
your
year.
opinion is there's really nothing we can pursue here that would interest
Yeah,
to
there's-
someone on their end?
What they're doing is the assets. Now, there was a lot of discussion about small and deep is established a process of dealing with different entities around the state that you got places that have technology concerns. They're trying to, I can't remember what they call it, smaller groups that would pursue that. And that's part of a program that DEEP has that they're dealing with. So we have not dealt with that issue at the committee of, on the Mura disposition. All those in favor, please signify, we already did that. Public comment, opportunity for further public comment. If not, commissioners' request for future agenda items. If not, the proper motion is in order.
Move to adjourn.
Without objection, we stand adjourned.
I mean,